Hey guys, Walt Schumacher with Schumacher Raceworks LLC, and today I'm going to put a kickstart in this KTM 525XC ATV. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is we have to pull this clutch cover off and remove everything in the clutch, the basket, the inner hub, plates, all that stuff. Everything has to come out. I'm going to lean it against that pole over there and get started on that. Okay, so this is the famous pin that you have to get. This is the one on the left, this is the OEM one. That's hollow. On the dirt bike they run a bolt through it and screw it into the cases to secure it. On the quad you can't really do that because the reverse shaft interferes with it. So we just made these. These are solid pins and it gets driven in right there. We're going to heat the cases up around here to about 200 degrees Fahrenheit with a heat gun. Use an IR thermometer and see when the temperature gets about where you want it. And then I've got one of these pins in the freezer already. Then use a piece of bronze or aluminum and to make sure not to damage the pin, and drive the pin into the cases. Alright, we heated it for quite some time with the heat gun. This is the first time I've done one with the cases still together. So a lot of metal there to heat up, and the hottest we could get it was about 160. And drove it in there with some brass behind it, and went in real easy, no problems. So now we're going to put a kickstart gear on here. There's a washer that goes on top of it and then a snap ring. And then we'll put that shaft together and we'll come back to that. So, okay, we got the gear on there. The bump stop as well, that's this piece back here. And that actually, I forgot to mention it, but it has to go on before this gear. So then we put the gear on, there's a washer there under it, and then the snap ring. Forgot to mention as well, my dad pointed out, that we want to make sure when you put that pin in that everything behind it is clean. So there can't be any oil left in there. You're not going to be able to drive that pin all the way in. So the next thing is to get the shaft, the kickstart actual shaft that goes here, together. And to do that, you need the return spring. Now this is the original return spring off of a 525SX. The outside diameter on this part is too big around, and it'll crash into the gear on the clutch basket. So a KTM 65SX is the same part, essentially, with a tiny bit more preload, but that's not an issue. With a very slightly smaller, it's hard to illustrate, outside diameter, as you can see there. So that works as a direct replacement and takes care of that problem. The only issue is the tang is about 1/8 of an inch too long. That goes and engages right there in the center. So we have to cut that off of the 65SX spring and then install it onto the shaft as you would with a 525SX spring. And then we'll come back over here. Okay, 2 hits with a sharp chisel. Cuts right through that. Dress it up with a file a little bit. And like I said, I took just a little over 1/8 of an inch off. And that should fit just right. If it sticks out a little bit, that doesn't seem to be an issue. There's plenty of clearance on everything. So now we got to put it on this shaft, which I will do and then come back. Alright, so that's what the shaft looks like when it's assembled there. If you've cut the tang off there, you should have everything centered up real nice. If you look at the back, I've put the ratchet mechanism on there, and there are dots. There's a dot on the shaft and then the dot on the ratchet mechanism. You got to make sure to line them up. Then we're going to put this spring on here, and there's a washer that goes on there too. We're going to put it on, which I will do in a second here. Okay, so when we put this on, now we've got the washer on the back and the spring on the back and everything. We want to make sure that this tab is behind the bump stop, so it needs to be back here somewhere so that this will limit it, and then we can clock the spring like we need to. So we're going to put this on, something like this. It's kind of... So now, when we come forward, the bump stop is limited it like it's supposed to. Then the last step is going to be to install that spring, which we're going to do here. We're going to put this tang on. You're going to need probably at least 3 hands to do this. And once it's on upside down. So once that's on, with a little blue Loctite, run that bolt down, and then this is essentially complete. install the seal in the cover, put the clutch back on, and you're in business. And I'll take a few more stills and maybe a little video when we're done. So, okay, so that's how everything looks all installed. I've got to drive the plug out of the clutch cover, this plug here, which you do by removing that snap ring and using a punch to drive that out. And then in its place, back up from the other side, you're going to install that shaft seal. Alright, got everything back together. I wanted to kind of highlight a couple of little things. This spring looks like it's touching the clutch basket, right? Doesn't look like we solved the problem at all, but if you look, that is only because it's preloaded in this direction because of that. When you put the cover on, this ring will center the spring up so that that doesn't become a problem. And you can see here on the bottom of the cover, we have got the shaft seal in there just fine. And so when you put it on, you're going to have to tap it a little bit, just not with a hammer or anything, just your hand, just give it a shove while it tries to center that spring up. But it will pull that spring away from the clutch basket there and make it stop rubbing. So we're going to tap that on, then we're going to put a lever on it, and I'll show you what we have to do next. And we're getting pretty close here. All right, guys, we're in the home stretch here for sure. Couple little things. Anti-seize around those makes it a whole lot easier to get that thing back off next time. But so here's the kickstart lever, right? This is a, well, let's put one on here. This is a brand new one that I just got. Put that on. I would recommend doing that because you get a used one and they get too much slop in them and everything else, and that's going to compound things. So you have a couple things you're going to see. One is we're running into that bolt. This is actually running into that bolt a good bit worse than my 08 did, so that's a little different. On the 08, it just kind of clipped it, so I notched the lever just a little bit on the back side here, and then it fit in there real nice. Now, the other option would be to replace that screw with a button head screw, and that might be what we wind up doing in this case because that is significantly worse than the 08 was. In addition, you're going to find when you pull this back and try to actually kick it over, I don't know if I can do this by hand with one hand. No, not quite, but anyhow, this area is going to crash into the frame. So you're going to wind up grinding a lever, and it's going to wind up looking something like this. Grind out this area, grind out this area. Pretty much I'm going to set this thing down on the floor, give it a kick, and see if I can kick it and what hits, and then if things are rubbing, just go over and grind on it until it doesn't rub. You don't have to take that much out. Like I said, that's not too awful much taken out of the lever there, but that's all the difference, and that makes it work just fine. So I'm going to start modifying this lever, and we'll come back and I'll show you what I got. Alright guys, after a bit of grinding, that's where we wind up. Got to take some out of this area and then up there on the shaft a little bit, and then same thing here, notch that out for that bolt to sit in. It's up to you if you want to take that much out. I took a pretty decent bite out of it to get it to fit and still click when it's shut. Torque spec on that bolt is 25 Newton meters, and yeah, I guess that's about all. I'm gonna give it a try here. You do have to kick it with the back of your heel, which makes it a little hard to stay on if your shoes are wet, but slide right up. So I guess that's it.